Hey, what's up? This is Dilio coming to you another video, and I'm talking about the Behringer Model D, owning it a few years later, and just doing my follow video on that device right there. And I think it's been a great device, and so let's talk about this device. So, long story short, Behringer basically found the diagrams for the Moog, Mini Moog, and then created a inexpensive version of this. Moog themselves has also done a reissue of their Mini Moog. The only difference is the price. So if you wanted an actual reissue of a Mini Moog, which they did do, it's in the excess of $3,000 to $4,000. This device was $299, and it sounded great. And one of the things I liked about it is that it had a really big sound. It didn't sound cheap, and it had virtually it has the guts of the Mini Moog. And so let's just try and calibrate it real quick. So the cool thing is you hit this A440 and you can tune it, because sometimes it gets out of tune because it's that analog. Great. So now, it has a good fat sound on it. And then if I add more oscillators into it, I mean, it has a lot of energy on the low end. Owning this for a while, I've had a lot of fun. I think having it sitting in your rack, and whenever you just want some fresh analog goodness in whatever you're doing, from sound design to playing funky bass lines. Like, I use this more for like R&B, trap bass, and just that funk. And it just responds very well. The glide works very well. Having the oscillators and then having the different waveforms that you can choose from, and because it sort of has that same flavor of a Euro rack, you can do some crazy stuff. You want a Euro rack. I don't really use a lot of Euro rack stuff with it, but it's a lot of fun, and then I like USB in it in. You can MIDI in and MIDI through it, but I like to USB it in, and then you got an audio and an output right there. I mean, just. I mean, you can do all kinds of funky things with this sound design. And I think it's a great synthesizer to learn about analog synthesis. And I think it's a great hardware synthesizer to have because of its inexpensive price. It has a very rich sound. It's no samples in it. There's no PCM modulation in here. And that's why a keyboardist would want more than one keyboard, because they may want that PCM really detailed sampled sound, or they may want the sound of a JD08 with its lush sounds and it's clear. But sometimes they need something. I call this like kind of like a meat and potatoes things. Like, you could take this on a gig with you and really tear it up on some key bass. When I'm thinking about that, I don't really think it is more. And then you could do leads, but then you can even go further with it and just plug this into an effects pedal and really have a lot of fun with it, or multi-sample it and turn it into whatever you want. The sky's the limit as far as that's an idea to turn it into a multi-sample or some sounds with it. But I mean, you can really just take what you want to do with it. Now, it's limited because it is monophonic, but analog synthesizers back in that day were monophonic, and then if you could play more than one note, they were really expensive. Enter Roland with the Juno, the Juno 6 and the 106 and the 60. Where you had an analog voice. Albeit not quite sounding like a Moog, but it was still a full analog voice. And then they had the digital course in there that kind of fatten it up to create these lush pads. And they're a lot of fun. Whereas this sort of like held you down. If you want to change a little bit of that contour, you don't want it to pop so much, you can just turn that contour down. I mean, you can have fun with it, and it does. It doesn't do a lot, but what it does do, it does very well. And owning this device and having it years later, I could definitely see and agree that it was a great purchase. I jumped on the first opportunity I could get one because I felt like they were selling out. I don't even know if they're still making those anymore, but if they are, I definitely recommend this. If you don't have any analog in your rig and you just want the simple that's affordable, especially if you're doing like R&B, hip hop, it it'll hold you down. And its small footprint uh, will help you allow it to sit on a desk or with the rack ears, get it in a rack and just have it live in a safe place where you can enjoy that, have a lot of fun. So that's my review of the Model D. I've done some videos before, but this is like having it for a while and owning it for a while. So that way you can kind of know what it's like to have one years down the line. In closing with this, there was a little bit of detune issues where I couldn't get it to get right in tune, but there's a very well documented manual that teaches you how to get this thing recalibrated yourself. If you're not afraid to open up the box and turn a few screws carefully and put this in a very stable place so you can listen and do what needs to happen with it, you can keep this thing in tune indefinitely. It does go out of tune, but I think that's kind of the charm of the fact that it is fully analog. That okay, this thing needs to be maintained. This is like a car engine. And I'm not trying to get too woo with that, but yeah, I'm your host Dilio. You're watching the Dilio T2K YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, comment. I'll see you on the next video.